All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the AgSmart Digital Plenary event. I'm Jarrod Fogel from Richardson Pioneer and a member of the AgSmart Industry Advisory Group, and I'm very pleased to be your host this evening. But before we begin, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge Olds College as being located on the traditional territories of the Niitsitapi, Blackfoot, and the people of Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Siksika, the Piikani, the Kainai, the Tsuut'ina, and the Stoney Nakoda First Nations. The area is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. We are very excited to be kicking off the 2021 edition of AgSmart with this digital plenary event. When things were uncertain in the spring, Alberta Innovates brought forward the use of their platform, Unbound, and this has been a major part in making this event happen. We also want to thank our presenting partner, AgExpert, from whom you will hear from in just a few minutes, and our platinum partners, ATB Financial, the Government of Canada, TELUS Agriculture, and Thrive by SVG Ventures. A few housekeeping items to go through before we get started. At the bottom of your screen, there's engagement tools that you can use. They are all resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to optimize your experience. You can expand or maximize your slide area to full screen by clicking on the arrows in the top right corner. The group chat box is a great tool to connect with those also watching the event this evening, and I encourage all of you to share who you are and where you're connecting from, but don't let that distract you from the content. If you have any questions during the event, you can enter them into the group chat box. Although the plenary videos are pre-recorded, we have representatives from each group that are online and available to answer any of the questions that you have during the videos. If you want to have further conversations with the organization after the event, throw that into the notes, throw that into the chat window as well. For the best viewing experience, we recommend closing any programs or other browser sessions you may have open and running in the background that may cause issues. And you can find answers to other common technical issues in the help function at the bottom of your screen. So with that, let's get started. Our first video today is a welcome message from Stuart Cullum, President of Olds College.
Hello, I'm Stuart Cullum, President of Olds College, and I just want to welcome you to AgSmart 2021. We're really excited about this year's show. We have a great number of exhibitors, over 100 exhibitors this year, a number of great educational sessions, as well as in-field demos. I'd encourage you to check out all of those, as well as use the opportunity to connect with friends and contacts and colleagues and industry representatives. I'd also like to thank our partners and our sponsors. Without them, this show wouldn't be possible. So thanks again. Enjoy the show, and hopefully we'll see you in the field.
Thanks, Stuart. And I know I'm definitely looking forward to getting into the field tomorrow for the live portion of AgSmart. The plenary videos you will see tonight come from our supporters of AgSmart, our presenting and platinum partners, and of course, Olds College. And on that note, the first plenary is from Dr. Alex Melnichuk, Chief Technology Officer of Olds College, and Krista Kilback, Marketing Manager from FCC AgExpert, to discuss if we are ready for the future of farming.
Welcome and thank you, everyone, for joining us for the 2021 AgSmart event at Olds College. My name is Krista Kilback, and I'm a manager with AgExpert at FCC. And AgExpert is very excited to be presenting sponsor of this year's AgSmart event. And I'm very excited to speak with Alex Melnichuk and to hear his perspective on how producers can make the most of their data, especially as digital agriculture continues to evolve. So welcome, Alex.
Thanks, Krista. Great to be here, and I'm more than happy to share my thoughts and vision on this topic. Very exciting.
Oh, great, and I'm excited to speak with you as well. And I should mention too, so Alex, you are no stranger to the ag sector. I was reading through your bio, and you have over 25 years of international work experience, as well as a PhD in ag sciences and a master's in soils and environmental sciences. And today, you are the Chief Technology Officer, Digital Agriculture at Olds College. And did I get that right?
Yes, that's correct. Thanks.
So given your extensive career in agriculture, I'm curious, so how did you get involved in digital agriculture?
It's a great question. Just naturally, I'm a third generation ag scientist, and being a son of an agronomy professor, I grew up in the research field. So I understood the importance of crunching numbers from my childhood. And by an interesting coincidence, I grew up about 400 kilometers away from Chernobyl nuclear plant when it exploded. And when I saw the first maps of radioactive contamination, I thought it would be great to apply the same mapping concept in agronomy, and adding geospatial and statistical analysis to agriculture. It brings the ag industry to the next level. So it was a very natural thing for me to do.
Okay, so with that then, so you touched on a little bit of it, but I'd like to hear a little bit more in terms of, why do you believe the use of data is so important today, especially in agriculture?
I would compare the importance of using data in agriculture with the importance of literacy in our life. Because collecting the information from the right sources, process the information in a certain way, and apply that information to make certain decisions, that's very, very important, I would say crucial in the industry. So, and agriculture is one of the most complex industries. I keep telling everybody agriculture is more difficult than the rocket science, not because I want to disrespect the rocket science. It's just because agriculture is so complex and unpredictable. There are more than 140 base factors influencing the development of yield crops, and that includes varieties, machinery, agronomic practices, crop prices, NPK, calcium, magnesium, pH in soil moisture, field surface shape, radiation, wind speed, direction, so many different factors which act in one field in different combinations. And if we want to grow higher yields with lower expenses, of course, we need to take into account in a certain way all those factors. And the only way to do it is basically to measure or quantify those factors and run through a certain type of analysis, and of course, eventually generate the appropriate recommendations. And also, agriculture is very fragmented and diverse industry. Very often, some models and algorithms developed in Canada will not work the same way in Brazil, and the models and algorithms from the tropical agriculture will be non-functional in the U.S. or anywhere else. And for this reason, we have to do a lot of work to collect the data, develop, tweak those models and algorithms for various geographic areas. And this is exactly what we do on the Smart Farm at Olds College.
So definitely, speaking about the complexity, and even though it is as complex, and that's the first time I've heard it being compared to as rocket science. What is though, what is the biggest opportunity though, or benefit though, that farmers really can see from digitizing their records?
Our approach is very pragmatic. Of course, any kind of new technology should improve the efficiency of the industry. So let's use an example. We take all crop inputs used in crop production, including fertilizer, crop protection, chemicals, seeds. They will contribute more than 50% to the total direct expenses in the farm. So, for example, variable rate technology, if it's applied correctly, can increase the efficiency of crop inputs by 15, 25, up to 30%. This means achieving the same yield with 10 or 15% lower expenses. So why wouldn't we use such technologies? There are many other opportunities. For example, robotics can bring the field operations to the next level of efficiency and convenience, improving farm logistics, traceability, so many things that can help making the industry more efficient, more convenient to work in, and can bring many other benefits.
So you spoke about a couple of things that stood out to me are efficiency, sustainability, and what pops into my head is why aren't more farmers digitizing their records? Like, what do you think are some of the barriers?
I think the complexity of agriculture is one of the biggest barriers because the industry is really complex. Of course, that causes the lack of automation, and there's another barrier, which is poor internet in rural areas. So all those different factors, I think they create the biggest barriers. I think what the industry is expecting from the science, from the ag tech, is basically streamlining those technologies. So instead of adding more work, they're expecting that easy button that you press and the work is done. So once it's done, it will be completely different life, completely different industry. Just imagine having good internet coverage in every field in the prairies. So just imagine the field display can work the same way as we work in Google Docs. So once I type something, everybody else can see that. Same thing, device in the field can detect weeds, diseases on the go, and make the right decisions on the go. It will be completely different agriculture.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So you mentioned earlier too about the smart farm. And, I would love to hear about some of the projects that you're working on and some of the wins that you've had with the smart farm and how that relates as well to farming.
Yeah, that's a great question. And the smart farm at TELUS College is an integrated part of the whole ag tech ecosystem in North America. So it's our 2,800-acre living lab where we run a large number of different experiments and tests. And it's also a commercially operating farm. So several years ago, when the smart farm at TELUS College was created, we worked on the digital strategy for the smart farm, and there were many discussions about what's the next big thing for us. And of course, you know that everybody's talking about machine learning, artificial intelligence, and things like that. But if you want to build any machine learning solution, it requires reliable training data. And not too many organizations around the world have that reliable training data for building new algorithms. So we made one step back and started collecting that data for that training data set. And that included high-density grid soil sampling, historical and current satellite imagery, soil electrical conductivity, soil compaction and moisture, yield data, many other layers. One of our partners called the data set we collected in the smart farm an exquisite data set. And I think that's a beautiful definition because it's really exquisite and comprehensive. And even more than that, last year we have collected a hyperspectral image of the smart farm from the International Space Station. When I say hyperspectral image, that means we have full spectral signature for every part of the field. So basically, we can run spectral analysis for crop canopy or field surface anywhere in the smart farm. And we don't believe that the data is the new oil, how some people position it, but we strongly believe that the data is the oxygen for new technologies, which makes farming more efficient. It can be either predictive analytics for soil properties and fertilizer planning, can be yield forecast, can be weed detection, variable rate technology, can be sensor data, and many other things. And all different components of our smart ag ecosystem are very well integrated. For example, when we install sensors or plan field trials, all that planning is based on preliminary analysis of field variability. So we know our data from sensors or our results of trials are reliable, and we can trust that data. So the bottom line is the data is currently behind every piece of activity on the smart farm, and it makes it more efficient, more reliable, and more trustworthy.
Mm-hmm. So you've definitely seen the advantages, right, in terms of the data that you've collected from the smart farm. I'm just, and it would be great if everyone had the time, right, and everyone have a smart farm that they could have as part of their operation. I'm just curious too, what do you think, do you think, that the ag industry, I guess, has a role in supporting farmers in terms of using data on their farms, or how do you think the ag industry can support farmers?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what like we just said 2 minutes ago, one of the most important things that the ag industry needs is an automation. And I just want to give you one example. 20 years ago, when AutoSteer appeared on the market, it picked up right away, just because it's so convenient. You buy it and you enjoy it. You don't have to do anything. On the other hand side, variable rate technology. It's a great concept, great idea, but the way it worked in the last few years. So you have to hire a consultant, you have to sit down with that consultant, discuss the goals, then you have to go to the field, collect field data, delineate management zones, collect soil samples, send the samples to the lab, get the analysis back, discuss fertilizer planning. So all different things in addition to the normal practices already established in the farm. So yeah, eventually that can bring certain profit, certain benefits, but it also brings additional work. So I think the main way how the ag tech would support the farmers these days is to streamline that. So instead of doing everything in a manual mode, it's like that painting behind my back. Well, of course, there is a niche for painting, but digital photography will always be more popular just because it's simple. You just press one button and it's done. And I think the most important thing that the ag tech can do for the farming is basically converting that analog type of operations into the streamlined digital operations as much as possible. So overall, I would say agriculture is a very noble business, and for this reason, Olds College students learn exactly what we're talking about here, how to streamline this noble business and how to make it more efficient.
Yes, and I think the word that definitely pops, that resonates with me is easy. It has to be easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, the one topic that I know is definitely a hot topic right now is environmental sustainability. And so I definitely need to ask you, how can digital ag improve environmental sustainability?
Yeah, this is really a hot topic, and I believe that any technology that makes the agricultural industry more efficient is a much better tool to make our environment safer than any regulations or restrictions. I know some people will probably disagree with me. I'm not a fan of restrictions, and I strongly believe that too many regulations will simply lead to a bureaucratic and non-efficient system. But just think about it. Most of innovative technologies in agriculture, they're just a direct way to reduce the amount of greenhouse gases, reduce the amount of crop inputs, or such as fertilizer or crop protection products, utilize solar energy more efficiently, and so on. So just imagine, now farmers use auto guidance systems on their machinery, and that reduces the overlaps between the passes by up to 5%. This means 5% less fuel, 5% less crop inputs, and so on, with no regulations whatsoever, just the technology. Or a genetically modified variety resistant to certain pathogens can remove the necessity of applying certain crop protection products. Again, this means less fuel used, more efficient usage of crop inputs, and eventually more sustainable crop production. So I think the right technologies is the most natural way to support any environmental initiatives. And that's what many players in this industry, including, of course, Olds College and FCC, we're happy to work together on that.
Absolutely. And that, really, yeah, you think about, where we're going to be or how the ag industry is going to shift in the next 10 years for sure. And I know it's going to be a part of that conversation. So with, the growing technology and digital ag knowledge expanding, how do you think the ag industry will change in the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
That's one of those moments when I feel I need a crystal ball. So 6 years ago, I asked the futurist about his vision. So the guy, he actually grew up on the farm. And surprisingly, he said, I believe agriculture will be almost the same. We'll still have to grow wheat, barley, canola, corn, soybeans. We'll still have to apply fertilizer, crop protection products, just because it's nature of agriculture. So we still have to grow physical assets. We have to operate with field equipment, and we cannot get away from that. However, he said the technology will make crop production, livestock much more efficient. Fields will be farmed using zone management. It's very likely that in some high-value crops, such as vegetables or in orchards, every single plant will be managed separately. And many operations will be fully or partially automated. And overall, I believe that will probably take a little bit more than 10 years to get there, because using analogy from automotive industry, so we all drive nice cars these days, but it took us, 130 years to get here. So why do we think that such a complex industry as agriculture will dramatically change in 1 year? Of course, it will take a while. But at the same time, AgTech gives us almost unlimited opportunities for making this industry more efficient, and it doesn't have to be about just the basics of agronomy. With high-speed internet available in every field, machinery will work similar to Google Docs, produce large amount of data on the go. Again, like we discussed, identifying certain issues in near real time, such as weeds, diseases, insects, will be probably capable of instantly calculating grain yield grown in the field, and be estimating hail damage real time, improve farm logistics, crop insurance, automate most of the field operations, buy and sell commodities with when it is most profitable, and many other things. So again, I would prefer to keep to have that excitement. At the same time, it's nice when you don't see it clear, because when you see it clear, it decreases your motivation. So let's be excited about the opportunities, and let's see how it will look like in 10 years.
I love that. Yeah, I absolutely love that. And yeah, for sure. Agriculture is not going anywhere, and neither is technology, right? So I think there's lots of opportunity and efficiencies, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I couldn't say better, because like we said several times, agriculture is a noble business, because it's about feeding the people. It's about using natural resources in a sustainable way that future generations will have access to the same or additional resources. And that's what it's all about. So we're in the noble business, quite excited to be here.
Mm-hmm. Well, what a great way to finish. It is a noble business. And I thank you very much for talking with me and for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Was great talking to you as well. Thanks. Great discussion.
You.
All right. Thanks, Alex and Krista, and everyone at AgExpert for that plenary video and your continued support of AgSmart. The next video is something top of mind for most people in the agriculture industry, as there's a strong focus on increasing rural connectivity. This is something that Alex touched on in that last video as well. So let's welcome Neil Van Setters, VP of Global Products, Agribusiness, and Brianne Keelik, Marketing Manager with TELUS Agriculture, as they explore why rural connectivity matters, connecting our farms for growth.
Hi, and thanks for joining us. I'm Brianne Keelick. I lead the brand and digital team for TELUS Agriculture. Today, I'm going to chat with Neil Van Cedars, the VP of Product for Agribusiness, about the role of connectivity and networks in driving technology in farming and how connected farms and 5G specifically can enhance profitability, efficiency, and sustainability. Before we get started, I would like to begin by acknowledging that I'm participating in this event from the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, and in particular, the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. For those attending this session, I also want to acknowledge the Indigenous territories and lands in which you are living and working. More than ever, technology and data are integral for the future of agriculture and our food system more broadly. McKinsey estimates that if connectivity is implemented successfully in agriculture, the industry could add $500 billion in additional value to the global GDP. To tell us more about how we can make this a reality, we have Neil Van Cedars. For the past 20 years, Neil has contributed to TELUS's vision, helping our company remain at the forefront of innovation through technology. He oversees the cross-value chain products that connect food value participants from seed to producers to food retailers. Hi, Neil. Thanks for joining me. So we know that not all players get to participate in the same way because of connectivity. Let's talk a bit about what life could look like for a connected farmer. What's the potential that comes along with improved coverage?
Yeah, I think for us, improved coverage is not coverage for coverage's sake, but it's really about enabling farmers to run their businesses in real time so that they have the information that they need at their fingertips when and where they need it. And they're not stuck, going back to the farmyard to reconnect to their connection and make the important business decisions that they could make in real time in the field. So as an example, whether that is doing real-time crop scouting and connecting with an agronomist advisor to get a recommendation on what intervention to apply, whether it's connecting to an equipment dealer to get some thoughts on, what's going on with a particular reading from a tractor, and, do we need to take the tractor out of the field, or can we keep going with the task at hand? Whether that's, looking back at crop plans and seeing, what progress we should be expecting in the field versus what we're seeing in real time. So those are all things that, with better connectivity, farmers can farm in real time and make decisions in real time versus needing to spend their evenings reconnecting and, following up on all the observations they had within the field.
How do we get to a place of better coverage?
So it's a challenging issue in rural Canada. It's one that we've been working hard on within our territories in terms of rolling out more rural networks, and we have some of the leading rural networks in the world. But that's not the whole answer to a farmer who doesn't have coverage in their field, right? So we understand that not everybody gets to participate in the same way. And we're working, with all levels of government to figure out what are ways that we can co-fund, co-develop, new rollout plans and new coverage so that increasingly the people in rural communities can experience the same kind of coverage and technology as those in urban environments.
That's very cool. So I'm not a telco person. My background's in agriculture. I know we worked on a repeater project with Olds College. Can you give a description of how that works and why it's important and what it's going to enable for farms?
Yeah, and that's just one example of what we do with Olds College and our partnership with the Olds College Smart Farm. So in that particular instance, we've been testing out a cellular repeater that sits in the field where it connects back to our cellular towers and provides better in-field coverage, and enables use cases for Olds that they weren't, previously able to do. So Zoom meetings from the fields, getting their emails, use of the farm management systems right in the field sensor deployments, and even, the deployment of autonomous farming equipment. So, that's just an example of how we're partnering with Olds College, how we're testing out connectivity solutions in the field in real farming environments, and trying to, ensure that whatever we bring to our farming customers is something that's field tested and field ready.
So we hear a lot of buzz about 5G, how it's going to completely change the way that connectivity works in rural communities. Can you tell us how does it work and why is it different?
So 5G is the latest technology that companies like TELUS and other telecommunications providers around the world are currently deploying. it is a huge step forward in terms of network performance and capacity. The closest parallel is the innovation that we've seen in the wired networking world with the introduction of fiber technologies and fiber directly to the home. So the biggest thing that technologies like fiber and 5G do is they remove the network as the bottleneck for innovation. So they have so much capacity and such high performance that people don't really need to contemplate having enough capacity or performance in the network to deploy whatever innovation they want, whether that's remote technologies, whether that's virtual reality, whether that's autonomous technologies. The network stops being the bottleneck. And so that's the future that we see with 5G. We're currently rolling it out in urban environments. We're testing it at the Olds College Smart Farm, and we're moving it into rural deployments in the very near future. So it's based on the same network, backhaul technology and tower infrastructure as 4G. So it's not a complete replacement technology that way, but what it does is it changes the way that the network communicates with the end devices, allowing for much higher performance, much higher throughput, and much reduced latency on the network, enabling, again, the different type of technologies like autonomous and virtual reality.
Interesting. So what I'm hearing is kind of like more devices, real-time processing, better speeds, and all that. And you mentioned before that coverage and connectivity and speed for the sake of it isn't the point. So what does this all enable for, what does 5G really enable for farmers, I guess is the question.
Yeah, and I think it's, what it enables now today is not a huge incremental difference than 4G technology. So it's really what the tomorrow what it enables versus today. So we can do a lot of things with 4G today around connected devices, around real-time access to information in the field. But if we want to move to a future of augmented reality, if we want to move to a future of, fully autonomous farming, if we want to move to a future of thousands of sensor devices and real-time decision-making, on farm based on data from those devices, I think that's the type of future that 5G enables, right? So imagine hundreds of cameras in a field sending real-time images back to an edge compute server that identifies the type of and number of insects that are in the field. And, before deploying a remote autonomous drone to spray in that particular area for that particular insect type. So it's just one example of how a 5G enabled infrastructure can enable, a much more autonomous, intelligent farming future.
Can you give me some other examples of solutions that are using 5G?
Yeah, there's lots of solutions that are being developed that will be able to leverage 5G, as it's fully deployed. So as an example, Carbon Robotics has a robot that uses lasers to destroy 100,000 weeds an hour, covering 15 to 20 acres a day without disturbing soil or plants. And it operates 24/7 autonomously. So a solution like that would be really well enabled over a 5G network. Pestl's iScout tool uses cameras to identify and count insects in the field. So 5G could enable that type of technology to trigger instant decision making, such as trapping or destroying the insects once they've been detected. And we're seeing a rise in really advanced livestock sensors whereby large herds, all can be connected, all with an intense device array that monitors every aspect of what's going on with the animal to ensure that they can receive the best, healthiest treatment possible from the ranchers.
Interesting. We also hear a lot about augmented reality and the applications there. Are there any pieces that are being developed within augmented reality for agriculture?
Yeah, I think there's lots of stuff in the lab. I think we can really envision a future where, when people are out in the field, they have an augmented reality experience which shows, for their crops, what they were sprayed, when they were applied, how much water and sun that has been received by each plant, and, making real-time recommendations on interventions that the grower may want to apply.
That sounds like a pretty cool application. How has the creation of TELUS Agriculture impacted TELUS's commitment to rural connectivity?
I think it's just increased the commitment that was already there. I think it's given a voice for farmers inside TELUS, a direct voice. because we have tons of people within TELUS Agriculture that are talking to farmers daily, that are farmers themselves. And that has really amplified the voice of the rural farming community within TELUS when it comes to our rollout plans. So much so that, the TELUS Agriculture team has representatives that sit on our network build committees and help determine how network builds are done and where there are concentrations of, either agribusinesses or large grower communities that would benefit from connectivity. So we've really been given a voice within TELUS to help drive the future network builds so that they optimize coverage and connectivity and performance for our rural customers. So I just think it's really increased a commitment that was already there. And I think we're going to see, increased connectivity, coverage, and capability for rural farmers in the foreseeable future.
Thanks, Dale. It sounds like a really promising future for both agriculture and connectivity. Thank you also to everybody who joined us here today. To learn more about TELUS Agriculture, please visit us at telus.com/agriculture or follow us on social media. Thank you.
Welcome back. It's always great to hear more about TELUS Agriculture's investment in rural connectivity. And it's exciting to see where we are in a few years and how it will impact the agriculture industry. Okay, up next, SVG Ventures Thrive has brought together Scott Bolton, President and CEO of UFA, Mark Blackwell, General Partner at Builders VC, and Stuart Cullum, President of Olds College, in a panel session moderated by John Hartnett, the founder and CEO of SVG Ventures by Thrive. So to look at the advancing the future of agriculture in Alberta through innovation, we continue to see daily advancements, but are farmers and producers adopting these technologies? Let's listen and find out how this group of Alberta leaders is listening and what their plans are for the future to support technology adoption.
Welcome to our panel, Advancing the Future of Agriculture in Alberta Through Innovation. In the last decade, there has been a global boom in food and agriculture innovations to keep up with the changing environment and consumer trends. Every day, there has been advancements in automation, animal health tech, controlled environment ag, next generation foods, and more. We recently did a Voice of the Farmer survey in Alberta with the UFA to better understand producers' challenges and how we can facilitate the adoption of technology into the fields and supply chain. And I'm delighted to be joined here today by Scott, Mark, and Stuart to discuss their plans to support Albertan producers as new technologies and challenges continue. Welcome, folks.
Thanks, John, for having me.
So maybe to kick things off with each of our panelists, from your perspective, how would you describe the Albertan agri-food tech ecosystem, and how does your organization contribute to it? Maybe I'll start with Scott, CEO of UFA.
Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks for having me. And, taking on your question, I might describe it as the ag tech space has come a long way in a short time. But I'd also describe it as we're really just on the cusp of what I would think is significant growth and opportunity for this province. We have the ingredients, is the way I look at it. We've got the raw material, first off, 25 million acres of farmland, significant livestock industry, and a bunch of new growth sectors like greenhouse industry in southern Alberta. We've got Olds College and academic institutions like Olds who are focused on ag tech. We've got the government, I think, picking up on the fact that this can be the driver of our economy for a generation. And most important, perhaps, is the fact we've got an entrepreneurial history in Alberta. We're risk takers. We broke the land. We're wildcatters, and we haven't lost that ambition and willingness to take risks. So, and I think our organization is going to be part of it in terms of investing vertically into the technologies of the future, and just makes business sense for us and for our membership.
Excellent. Thanks, Scott. It's the start of the marathon, or the first mile of the marathon.
Great.
Mark, from your perspective, as an investor and a successful entrepreneur, how do you see things?
Yeah, so I'd say similar to Scott. I'd say we're maybe in the first inning, but I think I have a lot of optimism
I think there's kind of an agri-food tech renaissance happening in Canada, and Alberta is really kind of at the central core of that. And, Scott talked about key ingredients. I'd say there's, early indications and really strong interest that's getting us excited. And so for us at Builders, so we're a venture capital fund that's focused in Silicon Valley, but a major emphasis of investing in food, agriculture, supply chain, and human health actually in Canada. And so I'd say the indicators that get us excited and why we've picked Alberta and Calgary as an office, a satellite office for us to start in, a couple indicators. I'd say that, our partners at FCC and the federal government have done a remarkable job at kind of seeding the ecosystem for early stage risk capital and venture capital. So, amongst 7 or 8 funds now that exist in the country, from the BDC Industrial Innovation Fund, District Ventures, and Carrot, there's $100 million of early stage venture capital now that's been funded over the past 2 or 3 years. The second component, there's now, I'd say more than ever, a receptiveness even in the public markets for agri-food tech. So we've seen, even in our own backyard, Farmers Edge going public, raising $100 million. And then south of the border, a super robust capital markets ecosystem for companies going public in the indoor space, AppHarvest and a number of companies. So that gives us, a lot of optimism for trying to identify and find scale companies. And then, 2 of the other big pieces, we've got big companies in our own backyard like TELUS Agriculture that have put a stake in the ground, a very big stake in the ground, and made a big splash into building, TELUS Ag and a number of acquisitions, now up to 7 or 8 of them now. And then the last piece, looking at, how we look at different parts of the supply chain. So Protein Industries Canada, $103 million has been invested across 7 technology projects through 2020. So, I think we're doubling, tripling down in ag. We've got all levels of government, including municipally. My other hat as chair of OSIF, we see agriculture as a major vertical that we need to invest in. And, we're super excited. We're, happy to launch our newest $250 million fund that we closed. And agriculture is going to be a big part of that. And Alberta is going to be an even bigger part of it. So we're excited. And like Scott said, everything from animal to microbial crops, precision ag, across the board is getting us excited what we have as a backbone here.
That's excellent, Mark. And congratulations on your $250 million fund. And we're also delighted to be joining forces in Calgary and Alberta as well. So great to hear that. And Stuart, I mean, obviously, O's College and, your smart farm, you're at the heart of everything kind of going on there. From your perspective, what do you see in terms of, the ecosystem and how you're driving things forward there?
Yeah, well, I think the Alberta agri-food tech ecosystem is strong and well positioned, and I would concur with Scott and Mark's assessment. I agree that, we're in early days, but I think if you look at the last, 20 to 40 years, agriculture production in our province and in our country has come a long way. We've significantly enhanced productivity and significantly reduced the environmental impacts through the use of inputs and whatnot. So, we have one of the strongest ag producing communities, I think, globally, and they're really leading in the advances of productivity and sustainability. That's not only just technology application, but that's also best practice because the two go hand in hand. And so, I feel that, as we see the next generation coming into agriculture and more young people being interested in this space, that technology adoption is only going to increase. And it's really, I think, going to continue to accelerate the way in which technology is being, utilized and applied, on farm and then throughout the industry. And I think what this is also doing is it's leading to a lot of interest in the space from technology companies. Mark mentioned TELUS. That's a great example of a technology company. They're not a traditional agriculture company, but they obviously saw a tremendous opportunity and are making a big move into the space. And there's a number of other both large and small companies that are interested in pivoting into agriculture. And I think that's very exciting. And we're also seeing, well-established companies like UFA that are doing their part in helping the sector grow and supporting that growth. And then, of course, seeing the world-leading investment companies like Builders and accelerators like SVG Thrive, actually establishing in Alberta, I think that is really rounding out what's needed within our ecosystem in order to support our global leadership. And Olds College's role is to provide the talent and the applied research and innovation supports. We see this as being, really, really important, as you mentioned. We feel that our role is critical. If the industry doesn't have the talent, it's going to struggle. And if it doesn't have the applied research and innovation supports and spaces in order to develop technologies within our Western Canadian agriculture context, then there's going to be a gap. And so that's really what the Smart Farm is looking to be, is that collaborative space for technology companies to engage, for agriculture companies to engage, for our investors to engage, but as well for our producers to engage, so that we can address some of the key challenges and opportunities in agriculture.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Stuart. And I mean, obviously, the farmer is kind of number one customer, here. And Scott, from your perspective, I mean, we heard from producers that shifting ag policies and changing consumer preferences are viewed as future challenges. When you look out over the next 5 years, what do you see are kind of the big challenges for the industry, as a whole?
Well, first off, I'd agree with the statement, but I might characterize the challenge, yes, but also I would use the word opportunity. I would answer it or start the answer this way because of the fact that from our perspective in Alberta, our farming and ranching practices, I would argue, are amongst the most progressive and sustainable in the world right now. And so as more emphasis is placed on, where your food comes from, what's in it, the ethics behind it, all of that, I think those that have good practices out of the gate, so to speak, are in a strong position. Doesn't mean you can sit still. If you sit still, others will pass you, but it's better to start from the front than behind. And again, in the case of consumer preferences, I think we're well positioned in so much as, take Asia, for example, where demand for animal protein is increasing rapidly. I mean, this is right in our wheelhouse. We're a major producer of animal protein, and then in North America, plant proteins. Huge, of course, and I think most of us know that, even if you're not involved in agriculture. And guess what? This jurisdiction produces something in the order of 2 million acres of peas and lentils a year under cultivation. And then, the challenge going forward, of course, if I can speak broadly, is perhaps the biggest societal challenge of all is, we got to find a way to feed 1 billion more people in this world and increase protein content, probably 2 or 3 billion more people, all while using less of everything. And add in extreme weather, which appears to be with us going forward. Now we're going to have to find a way to overcome all this, but as much of it as it is a challenge, I view it as an opportunity for our industry as well, and we're looking forward to taking on that challenge and opportunity.
Excellent. Thanks, Scott. And Mark, we also heard from producers that increased industry focus on sustainability, supply chain transparency, and perhaps surprisingly, we heard increased startup and investor activity in agriculture are viewed as beneficial to farmer operations. Are you seeing kind of this increased focus from startups or deal flow, and also maybe from a successful entrepreneur? I mean, what are the challenges entrepreneurs face in Alberta?
So, I think that the pandemic, quite frankly, has just put a magnifying glass on all the challenges. And challenges are things that entrepreneurs usually like to go hunt around. And I think we just look at some of the components even that Scott's chatted about, from, supply chain, how fragile the supply chains become, how fragile the labor market has been, that has really just put a hyper focus as to, where areas of investment is going towards. And I think that's evident. You look at even this is a $3 trillion industry. And in Canada and the US, I think there were 18 processing plants that went down that control a third of the pork and beef supply. So out of demand and necessity, I think that farmers, food processors, and everyone that touches the supply chain has a need more than ever to adopt technology. But you take a macro view of looking at 2020, it was another record year. Ag Funder released their statistics in 2020. $26.1 billion of capital was invested in agri-food technology in 2020. That's a 15% year-over-year increase from 2019. Now you laser into Canada. Canada represented about 1.55% of total capital on the global stage, and Alberta was a fraction of that. And so what opportunities and challenges do we have for entrepreneurs? I'd say, the pros of what we have opportunity here, I'd say it's the best time ever to be an entrepreneur. Sometimes I always question, whether I should stay on this side or the dark side of investing, because there's never been more access to capital. There's never been more support systems and scaffolding to support entrepreneurs. And the government and everyone is somewhat singing from the same hymn sheet. We talked about this at the beginning, but the provincial and federal governments are working in sync to ensure that there's strong access to capital, both venture, creative debt financing, and then also you look at the Canadian Agriculture Partnership. It's $3 billion over 5 years that the federal government's starting to invest in technology. So from that vantage point, I'd say it's the renaissance to be an entrepreneur in the space. I'd say the cons. And really, when we look at benchmarking, we're a fund that invests around the world, Israel, Europe, Canada, and the United States. And when we look at that benchmarking, what are other countries doing well? And then how do we reduce it down to entrepreneurs? So I think that there's an amazing amount of intellectual property that's locked up in the post-secondary system in this country, and a lot of work required to figure out how we take some of that applied research and develop a commercialization strategy to arm entrepreneurs to actually take that out of the lab environment. And there's organizations like CDL now that are taking a really hands-on approach with that 1 or 2 person company on helping to build the infrastructure and scaffolding to scale those companies. But when we talk to entrepreneurs in Canada, I'd say there's 3 big issues. One is just, I talk about lots of capital, but not all capital is created equal. And so I think that is changing. FCC is definitely leading the charge in seeding the market for early stage risk capital for those entrepreneurs that are pre-revenue, looking for a first pilot. And so there's now, I'd say, a relatively robust ecosystem in the country from pre-revenue, seed stage, to all the way through to growth capital, and large-scale private equity now that is looking to invest in this category. I'd say the biggest one that I also hear is just access to talent. What would surprise most people is that in Calgary alone, there's 1,000 open recs for technology-related positions that is causing a war on talent. We think about talent migration and migrant workers in agriculture. It's the same challenge that technology companies are dealing with. How do I compete for access to really good artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, mechatronics talent? That is the biggest challenge that all of our CEOs deal with on a regular basis. So we are working actively to invest in organizations like SAFE and OLDS to make sure that we can actually fulfill the quota of talent that's going to be required to actually fulfill on that. And then, customer is always the biggest challenge. Our entrepreneurs talk about, the early adopters in agriculture. How do we get access to farmland? How do we get access to pilot? And Stuart's solving that problem in a big way by having a pilot farm. But I think that is the biggest challenge, is finding those early adopter farms. As farms consolidate and become bigger, how do we create a sandbox environment for entrepreneurs to access? So those are the big the 3 challenges that our entrepreneurs kind of cry home about. But COVID's been an opportunity. Our CEOs are hiring talent. Alberta companies are hiring talent in Johannesburg, in Ames, Iowa, in Kentucky. No longer do you need to hire talent in one location in this virtual environment you live in. So it is an opportunity that we see as well, just that how we scale and grow big companies in our own backyard in Calgary.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Mark. And no pressure, Stuart, in terms of talent and, the living lab. So, Stuart, obviously, Olds College, is a living lab centered around working with producers on addressing real-world problems with innovation. And, just to maybe help our audience a little bit more, does the Smart Farm provide something unique that producers or the industry or the investment community can't get anywhere else? Or are there any kind of key success stories you want to kind of point to here?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I just building on Mark's point, and we take the challenge. It's critically important that we do both develop the talent and also provide the innovation environments for our industry to be successful. And that's something that I think the Smart Farm embodies. The farm at Olds College, it's been around for over 100 years, and it's really been there to foster learning and help the industry grow. But in 2018, we decided to transform it into a technology-enabled demonstration farm, and we also transformed how we operated as well. I mean, we recognized that we needed to bring more early-stage companies into our sandbox in order to develop their technology, to scale their technology, to validate it and demonstrate it to our producers. But we also wanted to create an environment as well that engaged learners more. And so that's really, I think, the magic that the Smart Farm is intending to embody is a place, a sandbox, a living laboratory where companies, small and large, can come together and address some of the major challenges of agriculture and thereby grow their value proposition, but also engage with the next generation of talent, our learners. And so by doing that, they're really, putting our students in an environment where they can understand not only what those challenges are, but how technology is successfully addressing them or not successfully addressing them, because that is some of the issues for our farmers. Is the technology is great, and I would say our farmers in Alberta and Canada, they're by nature early adopters. The issue isn't in them not being early adopters. The issue is in the fundamental issues they face, issues like connectivity, issues like the fact that technology doesn't integrate and communicate very well, issues around the ROI that is expected isn't as great. And so there are some significant challenges that can be addressed on the Smart Farm for the benefit of producers, but also for the benefit of those technology companies, so that when as they grow and as they develop, they're going to be more successful. And I think for investors like Mark and yourself, that's really, really valuable, because you can help those technologies that you're incubating and accelerating work within a commercial scale living laboratory in order to advance their technology in order to make it ultimately more successful. Yeah. So we believe that the Smart Farm is unique because it's less about traditional farming and more about using technology, data, and best practice to advance the industry, but doing it at a commercial scale.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Stuart. And also maybe just our last question. We've only got a couple of minutes left. And, you mentioned the point around the adoption of technology. In multiple farmer surveys, we found the adoption of technology. There's significant barriers around trust. Does the technology really work? Is it going to deliver an ROI? The cost versus the risk of failure, data privacy, et cetera. So there's all these kind of different barriers. Maybe Scott, what do you think needs to be done to facilitate the adoption of technology, with Albertan producers, and maybe how's the UFA, helping here or making this happen for producers?
Yeah, you mentioned a number of barriers, and I agree with all of them. But can I add one more, which I think is fundamental, and that is, and you mentioned it, Stuart, that's connectivity, the lack of sufficient broadband. It seems to me that if we don't fix this problem, we're not going to be able to move the needle as far and as fast as we should need to. I think it's at the level of importance of railways, port facilities, any other type of infrastructure, and it's just a fundamental building block. And if you look at what else, every other country, I think, is recognizing this and doing something about it. We did get a very good, productive announcement from the provincial government, I think last week, on a broadband investment. We need more of it. That, to me, is the fundamental building block we need to put in place. And what are, to the question of what is UFA doing as an organization, we're a member-owned co-op, and I think one of the ways that we can help facilitate get technology into the field, so to speak, is by being an investor ourselves. What better way to get technology out there than having the member himself be an owner in the technology? We don't have an R&D group necessarily, but we can partner with those that do. And we bring expertise at the field level. We have a good sense of what'll work and what won't, and even help technology companies position themselves for success. That's the power of a co-op, really. And I think we need to apply it to technology, and I think we will.
Yep. Excellent. Thanks, Scott. And we got 30 seconds, left. I mean, Mark, any other comments here in terms of the adoption of technology and facilitating that?
No, I was Scott stole my thunder. I think rural broadband being the $150 million investment in the province is making this table stakes, quite frankly. I think the other part, which could have a whole panel discussion around, is just the future of regenerative and the voluntary carbon markets and how we create incentive alignment with the farmer. And I know there's, organizations like Nutrien and others that have now, I think, 200,000 acres under pilot. That is a big, big part of the equation. There's going to be a lot of environmental pressure, both on the animal side and crop side, and how we think about regenerative ag and the voluntary carbon markets going forward. And has to be incentive alignment there and measurement protocols. There's a lot that is undertaking that's getting us excited about the opportunity, but is getting farmers very nervous around verification and just incentive alignment on economics. So that was my only other piece. So we could have a whole panel discussion on regenerative ag and voluntary carbon markets in ag. So I'll leave it at that.
Excellent. Stuart, you got the last word.
Sure. I mean, it's, John, it's all about collaboration, and we need to listen to the voice of the industry and the voice of the producer. And I think the fact that, you have you guys are establishing a presence in Alberta. We have builders, we have Calgary Economic Development and OSIF, and we have UFA, and so many other, companies, as mentioned, singing from the same hymn sheet. I think that's really important. Olds College is here to collaborate while we listen to the voice of the producer and address some of those fundamental issues. We have a plethora of technology expertise and companies in this province that see agriculture as a tremendous opportunity, and through collaboration and working in venues like the Smart Farm, which is intended to be a collaborative space, I think we have a great opportunity to really make our region a global leader in ag tech.
Excellent. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Mark. And it sounds like Alberta is ready for the opportunity and primed to be able to support entrepreneurs and producers, and feels like it's the first, I think we're mixing our metaphors here, the first mile in the marathon, the first inning. I don't know what it is for ice hockey, but we're at the start and it's a big opportunity. So thank you, folks.
Sounds good. Thanks, John.
All right, John, thanks so much.
All right. Thanks for yet another great session, and to hear the group discuss their plans to support Albertan producers as new technologies and challenges continue to emerge. Future's definitely bright for farmers in Alberta. Now, we're going to keep moving the program along. Our final session is a look into the Olds College Smart Ag ecosystem. And this is led by Dr. Joy Agnew, Associate VP of Applied Research, James Benke, Dean of Workland School of Agriculture Technology, and Dr. Alex Melnichuk, the CTO here at Olds College. So we'll learn what Olds College is doing to identify gaps related to technology in the agriculture industry, and how the Olds College Smart Ag ecosystem is building its capacity to fill these gaps.
We're here today to talk about the development and evolution of the Olds College Smart Farm and the Smart Ag ecosystem. So first, what is Smart Ag? One of the definitions that we use is that Smart Ag is utilizing technology and data to make science and evidence-based management decisions to improve overall productivity, profitability, and sustainability of ag production. Some of the challenges associated with primary production in ag include water stress, disease pressure, soil health degradation, the complex relationship between soil, water, plants, and air, unpredictable weather patterns, high and fluctuating cost of inputs, and the list goes on. Additional challenges exist along the entire food supply chain, including transportation, processing, and exporting. The evolution of ag technology, robotics, and artificial intelligence is necessary to help growers and the food sector manage these risks, and ultimately helping them produce more food with fewer resources. The value of using technology to manage this risk is evident in the high proportion of farmers already using technology. According to Stats Canada, nearly 96% of Canadian farmers reported significant technology use, and that was 4 years ago. Managing risk using technology isn't happening challenge-free, however. Applying technology in a way that truly helps farmers is challenging. In the rush to market technologies, some overpromise and underdeliver, or the developers don't take the time to get to know the grower's unique challenges or needs. farming is a business with tight margins. So for most farmers, technologies and innovation has to be tried and true before adoption is even considered. So addressing some of these challenges is where Olds College and the Smart Farm comes in. So Olds College was established in 1913, so we have a 100+ year history in ag, teaching, learning, and applied research. We're located in central Alberta with 3,800 total students and approximately 500 staff and faculty. We have a suite of very unique learning enterprises, including a 2,800 acres smart farm, including crop production, livestock production, including sheep and beef, as well as horticultural production, a brewery, a national meat training center, and 10 acres of constructed wetlands, to name a few. We have 9 academic areas of focus, all focused within agriculture, and of course, applied research and supports for entrepreneurs and innovators. The Olds College Smart Ag ecosystem is at the core of our Smart Farm, including our Smart Farm operations, which includes the crop, forage, and livestock production, operating as closely as possible to a commercially operating farm, while also being a living lab space to provide hands-on learning, as well as development, validation, demonstration, and scaling of ag technologies and practices. Our academic programming, including credit and non-credit programming, includes new ag tech programming, all building the skill sets required for the development and utilization of ag technologies. Our applied research team executes projects, interprets data, and shares results to provide access to innovation networks and funding to help companies improve or develop products or processes. Our digital ag infrastructure and strategy is laying the foundation for the collection, management, and utilization of on-farm data, and building training data sets for the development of new innovations. And our extension and dissemination platform, including events like AgSmart, our Smart Farm newsletters, webinars, and the development of a pan-Canadian Smart Farm network, are ensuring that the right information is shared with the right people in the right format. And our partnerships with organizations, small and large, government, and networks, providing a critical network for collaboration, ultimately accelerating the development and adoption of ag technologies. So how is Olds College building the internal expert capacity within the faculty and instructor group to provide the world-class training in agriculture and ag tech?
I think it's a great question. And just as we identified the gaps in skill sets in the industry, we have similar challenges. I mean, we have tremendous legacy programs at Olds College. Our faculty and staff do a great job in doing what we've always done. But we were stretched in some of those scenarios as to attracting and recruiting new people to build the culture around agriculture technology creation and different ways to think, teaching, and learning. So I had to do a lot of work, head into the industry, head into the sectors globally to identify not only people who we felt, in my opinion, had a teaching and learning spirit first, but also had that ability to translate that teaching and learning experience into subject matter expertise and knowledge. And so when Alex uses those terms, practical advanced technologies, we are teaching technology here, but we're teaching it through a practical lens, and that's super important to our industry.
So how will Olds College ensure that its programming will remain relevant in this rapidly evolving sector?
Yeah, you know what? It's a great question, and I've always I can answer it in a very philosophical way, but that's a challenge I think within post-secondary institutions. And in reality, it's easy to say it. It's another full reality on actually being able to execute upon it. We want to maintain those legacy and foundational pieces that students need as building blocks to learn and challenge some of the infrastructure and some of the learnings that we have in industry. But the other reality is it's hard to stay on top of or even beside a rapidly evolving sector. So we look at it through a few different ways. So of course, the applied research function at Olds College, in my opinion, is one way that leads the path in this. Our faculty can and do participate in applied research projects, and that immediately from that scholarly activity enters into the classroom. So our Olds College Smart Ag ecosystem and Smart Farm help increase that scholarly activity and give the faculty a place to test out some of those new and evolving pieces and technology so that it enters quickly into the classroom. Another way that we do that is through industry-led research projects. So we have a number of integrations with key industry stakeholders where they're bringing some of their challenges to the classroom and allow our very curious, very creative and challenging students to work through some of these challenges. So that helps feed an evolving industry. And then, I'd say lastly is the continued encouragement for our faculty and staff to get out in industry, hear and do a lot of listening as to what those challenges are to not only our primary producers, but our agribusinesses, and become part of that solution is really important, because those experiences in the industry immediately make an impact to not only the pedagogies and the content within our courses, but the learning activities and the student experiences that are craved within our environment. So
far, so good. And just recognizing that the rollout of this incredible program happened in the fall of 2020 with the COVID restrictions. So can you give us, a success story or a lesson learned with how you were able to incorporate, the hands-on learning in this a very digital focused and data focused area of study when the students were mostly at home?
Yeah, and absolutely. It threw probably a giant curveball. It's one that we likely, we did expect at some level that we'd be in this current scenario. However, we all hoped and wished, that things would become a different reality on that. But I would say one of the biggest learnings that we've had, so these new ag tech programs at Olds College are actually being delivered 100% online right now. And as for an institution that's at 107 years old that is always led with hands-on learning, it's redefining what hands-on truly is. And, we've struggled at some level in these 100% environments to create student relationship and student rapport, but the groups have really started to come together in our cohort model to build that relationship within those teams. So being that we had to pivot quite quickly and deliver these programs in a 100% online environment, the faculty has done a tremendous job to step up and create learning activities to engage in the Smart Farm without even actually physically being there.
Very cool. And I can confirm that we get to bring some of those students on campus even before the fall, because they are employees of the Olds College Center for Innovation and are going to be helping out the research team over the summer on the farm. All right. So can you tell us about why you think, what's your opinion on why Olds College is so well positioned to support the development and validation of ag technologies, products, and practices?
Olds College has a long history of innovations, and it's always been a place where the people were coming to learn about new technologies, advancements of the industry. And just to bring some context to digitalization, the first Precision Ag project at Olds College was implemented in 1998, more than 20 years ago. So currently the number of our innovation initiatives, research projects that we worked on exceeded 50. About 3 years ago, Olds College organized so-called Smart Farm, which is actually a commercially operating average Western Canadian farm on 2,800 acres of land, including arable land, hay fields, pastures, and as well as livestock. And the Smart Farm became our leading lab where we run most of our experiments, projects, and of course we use that as an educational basis for our students. And of course our expertise coupled with the support from our partners, everything this positions Olds College as a perfect place for the ag tech advancements and innovations.
Tell us a little bit about how Olds College is building that digital infrastructure that's needed to support R&D in the ag tech sector.
The digital strategy at the college is relatively simple and straightforward. So it was about bringing the best technologies, digital technologies from around the world to the college and the Smart Farm, implement them on the Smart Farm, create a showcase how those technologies can be utilized, use them for the operational purposes, academic purposes, and of course for leading edge R&D and building new technologies and algorithms on the Smart Farm. So for the last several years, the college made several huge steps forward. So So, of course, it's organizing the smart farm itself and implementing a wide range of new technologies, data collection tools. And right now, students at the college and, of course, the staff, everybody have access to pretty much any leading edge ag technology from around the world. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that.
Talk a little bit about how Olds College is building that internal expert capacity within its R&D team to define and execute projects to support, the evolving needs of the ag tech sector.
Yeah, that's one of the most important things, and Olds College has always had that priority to build that internal capacity and the internal expertise. So, of course, to achieve our ambitious goals in the area of digitalization, we need various types of expertise, including precision agriculture, different types of data analysis, including statistics and geostatistics, GIS, remote sensing, soil and plant science, and many other areas. So the projects that we're working on are always based on the industry needs, and they're designed to address certain problems that the agricultural industry faces. And our approach is very collaborative. So in addition to having internal experts, we work closely with a large number of industry partners and partners in the area of science. And of course, our projects are very well supported by the other organizations such as NSERC, CAIN, WED, and others.
How optimistic are you, or are you seeing that the skills that are coming out of the AgTech programming going to be able to address the needs of industry and even our own internal R&D needs? Like how well positioned are those students going to be?
I will be very short. The future is out there. And historically, Olds College always had to be a few steps ahead of the industry. And I think we're keeping that pace. So we're still ahead of the industry, testing and using the technologies that will become very common in the next few years. So I think we're very well positioned for that.
So I have a couple questions here. They've kind of been burning a hole in my heart to ask. So, all the work that you've done since you've, started and been a part of our tremendous team here at the college, what do you think the key barriers to ag tech innovation and research capacity are?
Well, one of the barriers has already been addressed in both your and Alex's comments, and it's all about the research capacity in Canada and the lack of skilled personnel, particularly in the ag tech sector. Ag tech development requires a very broad range of expertise, right from agronomy, soil science, plant science, as well as data science, mechatronics, instrumentation, all of that, as well as ag business and financial management. Like it's an extremely broad range of expertise that's needed within a single individual or very small number of individuals, and that skill set never really existed within a single program or a single graduate. So that the building of that capacity, that broadly skilled individual is essential, and I am so glad that Olds College stepped up to fill that gap. The second major hurdle that was identified early on by Olds College, and we're really, doing everything we can to try to fill it, is the lack of an innovation ecosystem to really promote continuous technology progress and the creation of new knowledge by facilitating exchange of information. Like we can't do it all. The Smart Farm and Olds College has a lot of great infrastructure and expertise and access to supports. But we represent a pretty small portion of the agro ecosystem in Canada. We're dry land, broadacre crop production, and there's all kinds of different cropping systems and agroclimatic zones within Canada and North America that these ag technologies have to work for. So creating an innovation ecosystem that allows linkages to be created and connections to be made to really advance or allow innovators to get access to the supports or the right vendors or the right investors to move their product or process along is critical. And no one has really nailed the development of an innovation ecosystem yet, but we have really taken some steps towards that. and want to continue building that with various partners and other entities.
Awesome. Yeah, before we move into kind of that innovation network, I just want to give a shout out to the agricultural economists. You left them off the list that you were listing out there, unfortunately. So.
Oh, I mentioned financial and I didn't. Yeah, sorry. You're right.
So tell me a little bit more. We're going to build on that innovation network. So tell me what Olds College is doing to address kind of some of those barriers.
So we are actively engaged in a variety of, I guess, business development incubators or networks right within Alberta. So the Alberta Innovation Network, and then, multiple sort of private entities that are incubating and accelerating technologies like Zone Startups and SVG Thrive and various other Alberta Innovates programs that help entrepreneurs. They provide the supports and the training and financial support sometimes for startups and SMEs to really move their idea along, as well as connecting them to the right people and the right experts and the right infrastructure to ground truth or truth test or validate or build out their business case or business model. It's all about collaboration and communication because, like I said, it's a broad skill set that's required to address all of the challenges or the gaps within developing a technology or a product or a practice for agriculture.
So even to continue to expand on that, like you say, we do all this. Olds College continues to move forward, but we have to find ways to disseminate that and transfer that knowledge. So we do some of that through our academic programming and whatnot. But love to hear what you're sharing on how we're addressing the gaps related to that knowledge transfer in agriculture.
Yeah, we're actively building that right now, I guess, where we're really working towards trying to identify the best ways to get the right information to the right people in the right format as quickly as possible, I guess. Because we are seeing, we're getting a lot of buzz, especially in Alberta, around knowing that we're developing or deploying all these technologies and learning about them on our farm. But producers want to know, okay, how did it work? Like, what did you find? Did it work well for you? What were the issues? What are the hurdles? How did you, deal with connectivity issues? How did you troubleshoot? All of that information is critical, and we want to get into the hands of producers. So we are building a platform around sharing information in multiple formats, whether it's newsletters, webinars, lunch and learns, videos, or more formal events when we're allowed to host them again. So we're really, wanting to build a broad and robust dissemination and extension framework, because I am not the kind of researcher that wants to just, keep everything in a computer, in a file, or in a publication, in a journal. This is applied practical research, and it needs to get into the hands of producers and the tech developers so they can learn about how to optimize and further develop their technologies. So that's what we're all about. Just to wrap up really quickly, a recap of the Olds College Smart Ag ecosystem. We're really on a mission to address the gaps and the evolving needs of the agriculture and agri-food industry by demonstrating increasing productivity, profitability, sustainability by using technology on our farm, utilizing our infrastructure for world-class education, demonstration of research, and ultimately accelerating the development and integration of ag technologies to improve efficiencies along the entire value chain. And then finally, building a hub of smart farm activity and extension in Canada, North America, and the world. And all of it is pointed towards our social purpose at Olds College, which is transforming agriculture for a better world.
Wow. Thanks, Joy, for that. And these are going to be my closing remarks. So what an evening, and what a great group of sessions from some of the biggest leaders in the advancement of agriculture in not only Alberta or Canada, but right across the world. So we would like to thank the rest of our partners of AgSmart. We could not do this event without the support of the industry. And be sure to check out the additional on-demand video content from AgExpert, AgVisor Pro, FCDC, Farm Management Canada, Global Affairs, TELUS Security, and Thrive. With that, we thank those of you that are joining us for just the digital plenary event. And for those of you that we will see in the field tomorrow, Get ready for education, exhibits, and networking, and we will see you at 9 a.m. at Olds College for AgSmart. For more information on AgSmart, visit agsmartolds.ca and follow us on social media using the handle @AgSmartOlds. Thank you, and have a great night.